From being bullied in high school to over 250,000 downloads. Stay tuned for this next guest. We are proud to have Traver Connect as our sponsor. Two words ring true for all of us in the automotive service space: the phones. When we hear these words, instantly we all sigh. Because as much change as our industry has seen, we still get an overwhelming amount of calls. No need to sigh, though. That's where a good BDC comes in handy, doesn't it? I know the team at Traver Connect personally, and these guys get it. And they can help you build your service BDC. Or you can use their team to catch the calls you missed from their well-trained team of agents. Even have them make outbound calls and set new appointments. Give Traver Connect a call today. As they say, revenue doesn't leave a message at the beep. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Today, we are excited to have with us the founder, CEO, and pimp daddy of Podbooker, Daniel Geffen. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh man, that's it. I'm changing my title now everywhere. From instead of founder, it's pimp daddy at podbooker.com. Oh
That's
man,
it.
brilliant.
Founder wasn't even a thing a few years ago. They just made it up, so you can have whatever title you want.
It's so boring, founder. It's so 2019, you know.
That's right. That's right. People got to get with the times. Well, thank you for being with us. For those who don't know you, for my audience will probably be most of the people won't know you. Give them a little synopsis of who you are, where you've come from, and how you wound up here.
Oh Lord, that's an open question. Be careful with those. You ask me an open question, I could just go on. All right, how do we start this? One of those typical class clowns in high school, jumping up on tables, trying to get attention, that kind of thing. Then worked in many different jobs and got fired very quickly from each of them because I just couldn't handle the whole, you've got to eat lunch at 1. I'm never hungry at 1. I'm hungry, whenever I get hungry. So that's when I want to take a lunch, right? So it's kind of like being in school again. And I thought, screw this. Like, I left school. That was like that was the happiest day of my life when I finally was released from prison. And now here I am signing myself up to more prison. So, got married to a wonderful woman who has always been my rock. And she's kind of, supported me all along my journey. And she said to me, Daniel, you got to start your own business. And I'm like, honey, that's wonderful, but how the heck do I do that? She said, well, you'll figure it out, I'm sure. And so apparently I managed to do that. It took a lot of, work, but ups and downs, as everybody knows in business, from having a 62-year-old woman cry because I told her off about something to my COO, being suicidal and quitting. And so there's just so much that happened. And then eventually I outsourced most of my company, which left me with nothing to do. And 9 years later, that's still running on its own, and I haven't been involved in that business. Then I got into podcasting 4 years ago, and we can kind of get into that story if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, there are a bunch of people listening to this that are considering starting their own podcast as there start to be more automotive podcasts out there. And I know there was one spinoff from this podcast that's already started. So let's talk about your journey in podcasting.
So 4 years ago, I'm playing tennis and I get a phone call, the phone call that changed my life, I call it, as cheesy as it sounds. The guy said to me, Daniel, I heard you have an interesting business story. I'd like to have you as a guest on my podcast. To which I responded, what the heck is a podcast? I had no idea what it was. And kind of just to give a bit of context here, I didn't have any online presence at all. I didn't have any social media following, like nothing. If you typed my name into Google, nothing came up. So when he told me about this podcast, I got very excited because I thought, well, this is an opportunity to speak, and I like speaking. I've never had an opportunity to do that. So I went on the podcast. I'm sitting there in my pajamas, staring at my bedroom wall, and I start just sharing my story. And an hour went by. It felt like 5 minutes. And at the end, I said to the host, I said, well, that was great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And he said, well, Daniel, thank you so much for being a guest. That was great. Thank you so much. And I said, well, I have one question for you. He said, sure. What is it? And in my head, I'm thinking, am I just speaking to you and your mother? Or like, that's not how I said it. But I kind of was wondering, like, is there 10 people, 20 people listening to this? You know, how many people? Mm-hmm. So I asked him and he said, well, Daniel, there's over 1,000 people listening. And I fell off my chair and said, wait, did you just say 1,000 people? He's like, yeah, just a little over 1,000. I said, well, what? Where are these people? He said, well, they're all over the world. And he starts listing all these countries. Some of them I haven't heard of before. And I said, that's insane. I need to get into podcasts and this is going to be huge. Well, 2 weeks later, I started Can I Pick Your Brain? The goal of the podcast, of course, was to pick the brains of some of the most successful leaders in our generation. Dave, there were only two problems. One is I didn't know any successful leaders to interview. So that was a bit of a problem. And two, I didn't know how to get people to listen to the show. Like, am I just going to talk and my mother's going to listen and my wife? Like, how am I going to get people to listen to this?
Right.
So that's when I had my first sort of light bulb moment that went off in my brain. And I thought, well, hold on, that guy had 1,000 people listening and I'm a nobody, right? And he had me on his show. Well, why don't I just get on other people's podcasts as a guest and just leverage other people's audiences instead of having to create my audience, you know, myself and try to figure this all out. Mm-hmm. I'll just go and be a guest on podcasts and then talk about my show and hopefully they'll come and listen to it. Well, that worked better than I ever expected because within 2 years, I became a top-rated podcast on iTunes. We got to over 300,000 downloads. I ended up interviewing 4 billionaires, the smartest man alive, the leading hostage negotiator for the FBI, the US memory champion, and a whole host of other incredible guests. And then what happened was, that's the first part of the story. Part two of the story is I started getting bombarded with emails from PR agencies, basically people trying to get their clients or themselves on my show as guests. And I'm getting dozens of these a day, Dave, and I'm just sending them all to spam because they were crap. They were just really bad. Number one, they didn't have a relationship with me. And number two, they didn't know how to position themselves that made them sound interesting. They all just sounded the same, and it was just a sleazy, cold pitch. Well, a couple of months went by, and after a couple of months of getting these every day, I woke up one morning and another light bulb went off in my brain, and that was, well, hold on a second. I mean, nobody's doing a very good job of this, right? I'm just sending all of these to my spam folder. And that's when I realized, well, I've got a top-rated podcast, so I know about podcasts. I've got relationships with all these top-rated hosts, so I've got the contacts, and I've been a guest on over 60 podcasts, and I've interviewed over 150 high-profile guests, so I know what guests should sound like and how to present them. Hey, why don't I start my own podcast booking agency? And so that's how Geffen Media Group was born. And we ended up, you know, working with many different clients over the last 3.5 years, getting them booked on the top podcasts in their space. Mm-hmm. And then about a year ago, I had another light bulb moment, which was, hold on a second, I'm only serving a small amount of people here because there's only a small amount of people that can afford, you know, agency fees. I charge thousands of dollars. And at the same time, I'm only working with the top 250 podcasts. Well, there's over 1.5 million now. So you've got probably millions of people wanting to be a guest on podcasts, and you've got over 1 million podcasts, and most of them are not getting guests, but they need guests. Why don't I start a platform where guests can easily find and get booked on podcasts, and podcast hosts can easily find and book great guests? And that was the idea for podbooker.com, and that's what we've created.
Yes, and podbooker.com is something that came across my radar, and I went and signed up and created my profile. And I'm sorry to tell you, I have not completed my profile yet, but I will before the end.
Dave? How dare
I will
We're
before
stopping
the.
this. We're stopping this interview right now. Dave is going to go and complete his profile.
We'll be right back, folks. And but even without that, even without completing my profile, I have already booked 3 guests
Wow.
through that platform. So and that's with just very basic information about me, and that it's a an automotive management type podcast. So the platform works, and anybody out there that is looking to start a podcast or already has a podcast and wants more guests or wants to be a guest on other podcasts, they need to go there and create their account, and certainly people will find you.
Thank you, Dave.
That's a lot of light bulbs that went off for you.
You know what? The thing is, it's not the light bulbs that's so great. It's the execution, because
Right.
I get light bulb moments all the time. I mean, I shower, at least 3 times a week, right? And the light bulbs go off a lot there. And then, of course, when I wake up in the morning, the light bulbs go off a lot. And even when I'm, supposed to be on a date with my wife, light bulbs go off. But I try to switch them off. So, but it's all about the execution in those light bulb moments. In fact, one of the billionaires that I interviewed, Jeff Hoffman, who he launched Priceline.com and Booking.com and Hotels.com. I asked him a question. I said, Jeff, what makes you a billionaire? I mean, there's only 2,000 of you in the world, right? 2,000 billionaires on the entire planet. What's the difference between a billionaire and everyone else? And he said to me, Daniel, it sounds quite simple, but I'll tell you this. In my office, I've got this very big sign up on my wall, and it says, ideas are welcome here, but execution is worshipped. Mm. It's all in the execution.
That's awesome. Yeah, certainly having the ideas is helpful, but as you say, unless you actually do something with them, the ideas are worthless.
Exactly.
And that's really the point, right? Is that you have to make something happen. It's the same thing when people talk about manifesting things and stuff. You can't just think about it and have it happen. You have to actually work at it.
Right. I mean, you can't think about having children and then suddenly I have 5, and I could promise you one thing, you got to do something.
Right? It is very true.
I mean, thinking about it is part of the process. You got to think about having kids. So you don't just have kids. Well, okay, let's moving on.
So the all right. So 2 things that you said while you were going through that. Number one, you interviewed the #1 FBI hostage negotiator. Is that Christopher Voss?
That's correct. Yep. I interviewed him before he was famous.
Wow, that's awesome. He is on my list of people to get on my podcast. I recommend his book to everybody, because in our line of work where we're constantly selling and in that negotiation dance with customers, his book is invaluable.
Well, I can make that intro, no problem.
That is awesome.
I can get him on your
cool.
show.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that struck me was for people who maybe are thinking about starting a podcast. So you mentioned the number that there's 1.5 million, I think you said, podcasts that are out there. Or,
yeah, 1.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a daunting number for a lot of people, and probably makes them kind of go, why would I start a podcast? I don't have a chance of ever becoming anybody. I know for myself, I started this podcast about 2 years ago and just kind of dabbled in it, didn't really do much with it. And then starting in June of this year, I said, I'm going to get serious about doing this, and I'm going to make sure that every Monday I publish an episode. And I've started publishing more than one a week now. And I have managed to get myself up to top 50 in Canada, for what it's worth, number 5 in Nigeria.
Wow, I'm not going to say no comment.
Exactly. But
I've also been
I've been top 200 in the United States, also in the business category. So
That's amazing.
It can be done, right? And it doesn't take a lot of heavy lifting, but certainly, what would you give as advice to someone who's thinking about starting a podcast? Is that still an avenue that you think is worth it for someone to start?
There's two things that I'll say to that. Number one, 1.5 million is a drop in the ocean if you consider the fact that there's over 100 million YouTube channels out there, 100 million. And guess how many blogs there are?
Oh, blogs have been around a long time. I would say 10 million.
Okay, how about try a billion?
That's
a billion. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Close to a billion blogs. So 1.5 million, if you compare it to the 100 million plus YouTube channels or the billion blogs, it's nothing. We're just getting started, baby.
Right.
Like podcasts are going to be in the tens of millions within a very short period of time. And so now is the time to hit that wave. The wave is coming. It hasn't even come yet. That's number one. Number two is, I assume your listeners are, you said, in the automotive industry?
Yes.
I mean, how many automotive podcasts are there out there?
I don't know exactly. I mean, there's a few, but I mean, there's not
a few.
There's not. Yeah.
Is there more than 50?
Probably not. Probably at least not. So there's
less than 100. So there's less
yeah.
than 100. So there's less than 100 in an industry that's, how big would you say this industry is?
That's, I mean, just in the United States, there were 17 million vehicles sold last year. There's 18,000 franchise dealerships just in the United States. It's a large business.
Okay, so I rest my case.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, you're in a very niche market that is right now not hitting that podcast space at all. It's new to the podcast space.
Right.
So the reason why you've probably hit the top 200 in the US and the top 50 in Canada and the top 5 in Nigeria is because you're hitting a niche that is not common in the podcast space, which is, so what's a great formula in any marketing is when you've got a nice niche market and you apply it to a place that's booming, but it's undervalued, right? It hasn't yet, it's underestimated. So the podcast space is huge. There's over 150 million Americans listening to podcasts regularly. Okay, that's a huge amount. But yet there's only 1 million podcasts to serve, or 1.5 to serve those 150 million ears. And in the automotive industry, when you get down into the niche, I mean, there's really only a small amount. And how many of those are going to be quality, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're not all like Dave. Dave has a sexy voice. Most people, they don't have that kind of, right? So I would say that it's early days. And if you're thinking about doing it, don't think about it. Go do it, because you'll thank me and you'll thank Dave later.
Yeah, and I would agree with those sentiments. I think people have what's that?
You have a sexy voice. That you agree with that? Is that what
if you say so. Your voice always sounds different to yourself, right? So.
Well, I hated the sound of my voice when I started podcasting. I hated it. I literally couldn't listen to it. I thought I sounded like, oh, God knows what, a dying cat. But now I'm used to it, because I've heard myself so many times on so many different podcasts and producing podcasts that I actually kind of like my voice now. It's a weird thing to say, but I definitely don't mind it, and sometimes I kind of like it.
Yeah, I can tell you, I am an introvert by nature. So just the fact that I do this, when I started doing this and said I was going to do this, my wife kind of looked at me sideways, like you don't even like talking to people. Why would you have a podcast where you have to talk to people, and you're initiating it? But honestly, after doing this more, it's a great way, number one, to meet people. And to initiate that conversation for introverts like me, who would not be the guy who would walk into a room and just walk up to you and go, hey, what do you do? It wouldn't be me. I would stand there all night and never say a word to you. So it's an easy way to initiate that conversation. And I think that's probably the trepidation that a lot of people have is, well, I'm an introvert. I don't really like talking to people that much. So I wouldn't be very good on a podcast.
Yeah.
But it does force you to come out of that shell. And probably an easy way for them to start to do that would be to go out there and find some podcasts that they could be a guest on, something that they have an expertise in.
Let me ask you this, Dave. What kind of podcasts do you get booked on as a guest?
Pretty much every podcast that I've been on has been an automotive podcast.
Okay. So there's enough out there that you could get yourself booked on. Would you think that there are other overlaps, like other podcasts that you would be able to go on?
Yeah, absolutely. Because what I tend to focus on in this podcast is management, and the management of people. So whether that's through, I've had people who are, mindset experts and that type of thing. My area of expertise is in automotive, but at the end of the day, it's managing people, and it doesn't matter whether you're fixing cars or building widgets or microphones for podcasting. It's all the same principles. So I mean, really, I could go on any show that wanted to discuss the intricacies of actually managing people, building a team, that type of thing.
What percentage of your listeners do you think are automotive versus other?
I would say I am about 75% automotive, 25% other.
Wow. That's amazing, because you've really captured a very, very sort of captive audience, and I think that's key. So getting on podcasts is definitely the best way to grow your list and to grow your own podcast. So I have people saying to me, Daniel, I want to get into the podcast space. I could see it's growing, right? Do I start a podcast or do I get booked as a guest? And my answer is always the same. It's the short answer is do both. Like, why would you not do both? Like,
Yeah.
But if you had to choose one, maybe you just don't have the time to invest in both. 100% without question, it's, you want to get on podcasts because you're getting in front of audiences that are already there. When you start a podcast, you've got no audience. You've got to build that up, right?
Yeah.
So getting on podcasts, number one, is key. That's the fastest way you're going to grow your audience today, hands down, because that's where the attention's at. Like, the average attention span today is about 8 seconds. That's 1 second less than a goldfish. Okay. Okay. And when you go to social media, it drops to 3 seconds. Now, the example I give is Susie sitting on the toilet till her thighs go numb, okay, scrolling through her Instagram feed. And if you're posting on that, you're lucky to get 1 second of her attention before she flies through the next feed. Okay. So whereas with podcasting, this is the crazy statistic, over 85% of people that listen to podcasts listen to the whole thing from beginning to end. And the average podcast is 45 minutes long.
Wow.
You can't get 45 minutes of someone's attention today anywhere. I mean, it's a gold mine.
Yeah.
Because anyone listening to this will know, ultimately, attention is what sells. That's what sells. If you have someone's attention for long enough and you build enough rapport and you build a connection with that person, they're going to buy from you. And you don't even need to sell.
Yeah, and I think that's an area that especially in automotive that a lot of people and companies are missing. I think they've taken time to make their Facebook pages and their Instagram pages and maybe a LinkedIn page, depending on the type of business. But I don't think, I know that 99.9% of them have never said, hey, let's start a podcast to talk about our product or our company or whatever. And it's such an easy avenue to get in there and do just what you said, to get 45 minutes of somebody's time to talk about your product and what you do. And certainly you can do that in a way where you're interviewing somebody else or talking to somebody else about, maybe it's two people from that company that are just having a conversation, but it's an easy way for companies to really get more exposure for themselves.
Correct. And especially because there's so few people doing it in your industry, it's it's wide open for you to become one of the leaders in that space in the podcasting space.
Yeah, so that just took a different turn for me here. So now I've got a new career. To go
Well,
give my
now,
notice tomorrow.
well, Dave, you're the pimp daddy of the automotive industry now.
There you go. So let's talk some more about Podbooker though. And about how that works for people, because sometimes people hear, oh, you got to do another profile, and they've got Facebook, they've got Instagram, they've got LinkedIn, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do another profile. But it's number one, it's a profile with a purpose.
Oh, there we go.
And you can have that one if you want. And
I'm gonna take that. I am the pimp daddy that sets up podcast profiles with a purpose.
There you go.
You like
Look
that?
At that.
PPP,
all coming together.
So
let's talk about how easy it is for people to do this on Podbooker and what it can get them.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, it takes probably 90 seconds really to set up a profile. It's pretty quick. I mean, Dave clearly didn't set it up properly, so it took him a little bit longer than the average, but the average person, it's like 90 seconds. I'm just kidding. 90 seconds roughly to set it up, number one. Number two, people are on there for two reasons. They're either looking for guests, so they're either hosts looking for guests, or they're guests looking for podcasts to go on, which means that you've got people who are on there for a purpose. It's a specific purpose. When people go on social media, whether it's Facebook or whatever, LinkedIn, they're there for a different reason, right? And everyone's there for a different reason. So your agenda and their agendas are different. Here, everyone's agenda is the same. So if you have a guest profile and there's hosts that are on the platform looking for guests, the chances of you getting booked as a guest is going to be very high, relatively speaking. Right. In fact, right now, we have a 24% acceptance rate on podbooker.com, which, by the way, I'm in the industry. I've been in the industry now for 4 years as an agent. That's insane. That's like an insane acceptance rate number. It's crazy. We've had over 600 bookings done through the platform in the last 2 months since we launched, which is incredible. And the goal as a guest, if you're a guest, is to get booked on podcasts. And so that's it. There's if you're thinking, well, do I want to set up another profile? It's not another profile. It's the only profile you'll ever need in order to get booked on shows. And if you're a host and you're looking for guests, well, then it's way better than, looking through your email, which is, the purpose of email really is there's loads of different, reasons that we use email. And so I end up getting lost in emails when I'm trying to send someone an email to get on their show, because think about it, it's not necessarily a priority for a host. They might be, having to answer business emails before they get to answering pitches that are usually cold. And again, hosts don't like to, look at cold pitches and then have to research and find out who this guest is. On Podbooker, they're there, and they could just click a simple button and they're on your profile. Now they could see everything about you. And what's also really cool is we just launched a feature where you can actually get reviews from hosts, which, by the way, Dave, you're going to get a review request from me. And we've made it really simple. I just need to go onto my Podbooker page and then click ask for a review. I type in Dave's show into the thing, and then I click send, and he gets an email and a message saying Daniel Geffen wants you to review him as a guest. And then Dave just clicks a simple button, types in, Daniel was the best guest I've ever had on my show. And then click submit. And that's it. Now on my Podbooker profile page, you'll see all of my host reviews. Now, the reason that's great is, of course, the more reviews you get from hosts, the more likely you're going to be accepted on other podcasts, right? And bigger podcasts.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, I love the as somebody who's been doing this consistently since June. That's the thing that takes up the most time is finding those guests to get on your show. And reaching out and sending the emails, making the introductions, giving them the reason why you would want them on the show and reasons why they should want to be on your show and that type of thing. And this helps eliminate that. Not that goes away for when you're trying to find guests in different areas, but it eliminates a lot of that time because you can just, which I will do today, finish my profile. You can have your profile out there, and it's out there basically searching for guests or hosts that want you as a guest while you're off doing other things.
Yeah, no, that's the goal of Podbooker.
Excellent. Well, Daniel, this was a great conversation. I thank you for joining us on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Love podbooker.com. That is that's a light bulb I'm glad went on, and I'm glad you went and executed on that.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
And I think you said something at the beginning of this that a lot of people that have that entrepreneurial spirit can understand, was that you were not a good employee, and you realized that early on and went and searched out your path. And there are a lot of us out here in the podcast space who are thankful that you did that.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you for being on, and you have a terrific evening.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
We are proud to have Traver Connect as our sponsor. Two words ring true for all of us in the automotive service space: the phones. When we hear these words, instantly we all sigh, because as much change as our industry has seen, we still get an overwhelming amount of calls. No need to sigh, though. That's where a good BDC comes in handy, doesn't it? I know the team at Traver Connect personally, and these guys get it. And they can help you build your service BDC. Or you can use their team to catch the calls you missed from their well-trained team of agents. Even have them make outbound calls and set new appointments. Give Traver Connect a call today. As they say, revenue doesn't leave a message at the beep.